G'day, and let's have another pack cracking session. I just got a new postage pack. I got all my Cthulhu cards from the Yothog contract, or whatever it's called. Sweet! And in it was also the new Lord of the Rings pack. One of the new Lord of the Rings packs I haven't got. I've still got another couple of mails coming in, which will update me fully with Lord of the Rings. But for now, I do have conflict at the Carrock. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, so let's have a look here. Frodo Baggins. After Frodo Baggins is damaged, cancel the damage and instead raise your threat by the amount of damage he would have been dealt. Limit once per round. Okay, that is quite an interesting card. Threat management is huge, but he is Spirit, which is of course the anti, the threat dropping faction at the moment. He does have the same problem that Bilbo has, as in he's only got 2 hit points, but this ability for him to stack the damage into threat is actually quite powerful. He makes Bilbo look like a much more attractive card. I think Eowyn, because of her high questing power, Bilbo to absorb damage, and Frodo to absorb damage, and Bilbo to draw cards might be quite a good little team, and I will be testing that out shortly. So, yeah. Dúdain's Warning, +1 defense. So this is basically the sister card to that +1 attack we got in the last deck. And it has all the same comments. It's a good card, puts 1 defense on you guys, only costs 1. It can be swapped between heroes at action speed. So yeah, it's quite fine. Now the rules clarification has come down on action. Each phase in the rulebook is split into a number of steps as well. So for example, the shadow card, dealing a shadow card and revealing a shadow card are different phases. So you can say tap Denethor to look at a shadow card because it's an action when it's on the table, but you can then also say once the shadow card's revealed, you'd be able to move this attachment to help defend a hero. But once the combat is started, then you are unable to take action, which means that if you are being attacked by 2 monsters and one has this mark, one of your defenders has this mark and the other defender doesn't, you cannot calculate 1 combat damage and then swap this to the other guy and then do it, because that combat damage takes place in a single step. But still, very good card. Okay, Second Breakfast, one of the funny little pieces in the movie that I thought was very well done, the Second Breakfast scene. Okay, each player returns a topmost attachment card from his discard pile to his hand. Okay, this is a good card. I mean, it's obviously got some nice utility here, but at the same time, this is a card that can sit, I would imagine, could sit dead in your hand quite a lot. Unlike the Hammersmith, which fetches the topmost attachment card from your own pile, it isn't a body on the ground itself. It's just an event, okay? And the problem with this is that if you're playing solo, it doesn't really make a difference, it's fine. But if you're playing doubles, which a lot of people do, obviously, then you're going to be waiting for a point in the game when this card has value. As in, the best time to cast it is when there's attachments in both people's graveyard. Which means that half the time when you cast this card will not really have the effect that you want it to, as in it will only do it for 1 player. Or, so it's running it. So basically the problem with this card is that the majority of times you cast it, you're probably going to be casting it for half power. And I mean, it's good because it does it for each player. I mean, it is a good card. I'm just saying that I feel that this card would probably not make my deck at first glance. It looks like a kind of card that, while sounding pretty cool and has some pretty cool stuff going on at the same time, would probably be best served by just having a powerful card that actually does something to help you win the quests. Yeah, my biggest problem with this card is that it's conditional. Like, that you're half the time you won't be casting it for its full potential, or it'll be sitting in your hand doing nothing, while something like Ember Hammersmith allows you to actually put things on the table. Bjorning Beekeeper. Man, I'm so bad at pronouncing these things. Okay, so this is a tactics guy, and I have been incredibly unimpressed with the tactics decks. I just have never been able to cook one up that's really been cooking. Yeah, I'm not happy with tactics. But let's have a look at this guy. Discard Bjorning Beekeeper from play to deal 1 damage to each enemy in the staging area. Okay, so this is actually a pretty good card. If you have a high questing, this card combos with a heavy questing deck. Okay, so the better your threat is, which is one of the problems with tactics, your threat's so high. But still, I just have not been able to get a tactics deck really running, and one of the biggest problems I have with tactics decks is threat management. Now, I've tried comboing it with Spirit, but I just really haven't had a lot of success, and my experience with tactics is that you usually are going to be engaging characters, attacking things or being attacked, which means that you're not going to have a lot of stuff in the staging area, which means that this card doesn't really excite me. He costs 4, which is pretty expensive, but like all tactics, he has 2 attack and a defense. Like, I mean, he's quite a decent body. He's even got a willpower. So and he's got 3 health points. So he's a typical tactics ally, as in he can defend a little bit. He's got a bit of attack, and he's got some hit points, which is more than most allies. So, yep, he's a body, but does his ability thrill me? Not particularly at this stage. Woohoo, more eagles. Attached to an ally, discard Bornoloth from play to return attached ally to its owner's hand. Okay, this is a very interesting card. I can see it comboing already with a couple of different cards. I think Valiant Sacrifice is the name of one of the cards. That's a leadership icon, though. Now again, this is an action, discard. So you are not going to be able to use this in the same way Magic the Gathering allows you to block, to declare a blocker and then sack, and then that damage is absorbed still, even though the card's not there. So you won't be able to use it that way. From what I said before about once the combat is started, that entire section is a single step, so actions cannot be played during it. But you got a hero that you need to get out of trouble. This is a good card. If you have an attachment, if you have an ally that has a particularly nice, when placed upon the table ability, like a triggered effect, then this is a very good card. I can see this card having a lot of uses. It's going to take a bit of deck tooling to figure out the best way to use that, but I think this is quite an interesting effect, and I like this card. Woohoo! Okay, Emond. Response. After Emond leaves play, Reddy or Rohan characters in play. Okay, so here we've already got a card that can combo with this bird. So already you can see that cool Born Aloft card's going to be doing something. Now, I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think readying characters is actually one of the more powerful effects in this game. And, I mean, there's powerful effects in these games. I mean, card draw is always a powerful effect, okay? But particular in this game is readying characters, because so many things exhaust your characters. I mean, you have to tap to quest, you have to tap to defend, you have to tap to trigger actions, you have to tap to attack, it's like, it's very easy, unless you have a massive, massive army, to just not have enough characters to do the actions you want. You really have to choose and pick the best things to do. And being able to untap and ready your allies, and that's a very, very, very powerful effect. Now, he does only affect Rohan characters. Now, I haven't really spent a lot of time working out exactly what Rohan characters I have off the top of my head, but that is a condition that you'll need to keep an eye on. All in all, I think this is quite an interesting card. He's got a good willpower. He is unique, but he's got 2 willpower, attack, and 1 defense. I quite like this card. I think this card has some potential. Again, it's a little bit like Born Aloft, as in I will need to actually have a play with it and sort of have a look. These 2 cards, both these cards, Born Aloft and Imond, they're about deck constructions. These cards are only good if your deck is constructed in a way that utilizes these abilities properly. It's not like just putting a body on the table. Okay, Nor Am I a Stranger. This is another title. Attached to a character. Attached character gains the Rohan trait. Well, that's pretty neat. That's, it's pretty obvious combos with this guy. And it's early days yet in the card game. There isn't a huge amount of value from the different traits at this point. I mean, there are some traits that have value, like there's a couple of dwarf ones I like, but so far there hasn't really been any particularly amazing cards that take advantage of these traits as yet. Still, if there does come out, I mean, this card obviously takes advantage of this, but this is a kind of card that could be good. I'm a big fan of thematic decks myself in my other games, and what I call tribal, what is called tribal decks, which means that the deck is actually designed around a tribe. So Rohan is a tribe, and then you build a Rohan deck. This would be a vital inclusion into that. Longbeard the Mapmaker. Okay, so spend 1 lore resource and give Longbeard the Mapmaker +1 will until the end of phase. Okay, well, this is obviously just a questing body. He's kind of nice. He's got a nice hit points here, and he's got 1 defense, 1 attack. Very good card. I quite like this card. Not a lot to say about it. He doesn't have any particularly interesting abilities, but his ability that he has got listed is quite powerful. And obviously, he's a map maker. He's designed to help you with your questing, and that's exactly what he does. So, a burning brand attached to a lore character. While attached character is defending, cancel any shadow effects on cards dealt to the attacking enemy. Okay, well, this card is freaking amazing. Shadow cards are obviously one of the most powerful effects the enemy deck has for you, because it changes your plans. And any of the cards that allow you to peek at the shadow cards or peek at the encounter deck or control the encounter deck some way are very, very powerful. And this guy basically just stops those things working. So, I mean, I'll have to have a look through. I can't think of any at the top of my head, any particular lore hero or ally that I would wish to attach this to, like anyone better than anyone else. But I mean, it's obviously a powerful effect and quite interesting. What I do like about it is that it does have this conditional. Here's something interesting to note. Hang on. Yeah, I'll get to that in a sec. Let's just do the next card. Okay, so this is the next card. I'm still talking about a burning brand here. This is another song card. Now, we haven't really seen any decent songs yet, but the songs we have seen in the last pack is just exactly like this. Attached hero gains a lore resource icon. Now, what that means is that they don't draw extra resources, but they are counted as a lore. Okay, so if I cast that on an ally, say a tactics ally, this card can now be cast on it, because it's not talking about native to lore, it's talking about something that has the lore icon, which is what this card does. So these cards combo quite well together, much nicer than the fetch combo in the last pack. That's what this song does, very cool, and we can fetch it out if we need it. I think I like this song a little more than the last song, just because I think the synergy I think this card here is incredibly powerful, and being able to use this to place it on any card on the table, that's pretty damn good. That's it for the player cards. Neato. Okay, encounter deck time. This is interesting, an ally in the encounter deck. Let's have a look at this bad boy. He can quest, attack, and defend with a hit points of 10. Grimborn the Old does not exhaust to defend against troll enemies. If Grimborn the Old has 8 or more resource tokens on him, he joins the first player as an ally. Spend 1 leadership resource to place that resource on Grimborn the Old. Okay, this is quite an interesting card. One player, you basically ignore half of his text. His big thing is, you obviously pull him out of the encounter deck and you probably have to do a quest, and then he becomes your mate and joins your team as an ally, and he's quite a powerful ally at that. But if you're playing 2 players, you can kind of control him and move him around the game board to place him where you need to. Obviously, most likely to place him in areas where you have trolls attacking. All in all, I think that's a pretty powerful card, and probably would be integral to winning this game. Lewis! Wow, 2/4/2. He's pretty hardcore. When Lewis engages with a player, all troll enemies gain forced. After this enemy attacks, the defending player must raise his threat by 3. After defeating Lewis, you may choose and discard 1 sacked card from play. Okay, I don't know what a sacked card is. I guess we'll find it in a bit of a sec. I'll try and remember to come back to this card. Now, the forced ability is pretty devastating depending on when this guy is drawn. If you don't have other troll force, yeah, it's just trolls. If you don't have other trolls actually already engaged when you pull this card, he basically has no effect upon the game except from being a big, scary, massive troll. So he's not too scary, Lewis. But then again, like I said, if he comes out and you've already got trolls engaged, then the threat gain is quite substantial. Oh, these cards are awesome. Nice. I really like the look of this card. Okay, 2/4/2, 10. Okay, this troll has the same powers, and it's Maurice. While Morris is engaged with a player, all troll enemies get +1. See, now this is a more scary card. And again, the sacked ability, I don't know. Yeah, so he's a lot more scary. And he's got awesome artwork. Stuart. While Stuart is engaged with a player, all trolls get +1. Okay, he's not as scary as old Maurice, but he's pretty cool. I don't like his drawing even half as much. Rupert. Don't want him charging at you. Look at his big, massive foot. Okay, after Rupert attacks, shuffle all copies of the sacked card from the discard pile back into the encounter deck. Okay, again, I don't know what sacked means, so I can't really comment on the power of that, but it sounds like it might be like Hunt for Golem, where you're trying to find clues and you're trying to draw them out of the encounter deck, so shuffling them off the table can't be good. But then again, you've got a choose to discard option here, which means that after he's dead on these guys, which means sacked is probably something that you want to get rid of. Oh, it's from the discard pile, yeah. So you're trying to get rid of these sacked cards, whatever they are, and this puts them back into play, or puts them back in the encounter deck, so not cool. Still, I think the scariest guy is probably the attacker and the defender. This happens every time he attacks. Yeah, no, actually, this card here is probably the biggest game staller. I mean, I have to find out what those sack things are. Let's have a look right now. Okay, sacked. Attached to a hero with no sacked cards attached. Controlled by the first player. Cannot be cancelled. Counts as a condition attachment with the text, an attached hero cannot attack, defend, commit to a quest, trigger its effects, or collect resources. Okay, sacked. Not good. So this is obviously the trolls put you in a big sack and take you off to squish you into jelly. Wow, this is a really bad card. So basically, it's like an arrest, I guess. It just completely takes you out of play. You can't attack, you can't defend, you can't pull resources, and you can't even trigger effects. Wow, that's pretty devastating. So again, we want to kill these trolls to get rid of these effects. And this guy here can put them back into play. So I'm really thinking that Rupert is probably the scariest of these guys, depending on how many of these sacks you've gone through. There's quite a lot. There's 4 in here. Okay, so back to the deck. What else have we got here? Muck Adders. Forced. If Muck Adder damages a character, discard that character from play. Oh, well, it's just a Death Touch Python from Magic the Gathering. Even has a very similar graphic. Okay, so nothing particularly interesting here. It's got a interesting shadow effect that drops the defense value. That's something to keep an eye on, because there are a lot of 1 defense characters, which would make their defense 0. A lot of unexpected deaths. But yeah, he's basically just got Death Touch. He does damage, the creature dies. So yes, this is the kind of character that you're going to be very, very tempted to just let the damage go through. But yeah, Death Touch does damage, it kills him, and it's got a neat shadow effect that can surprise you. Quite like this card. So the namesake location. It's unique. 6 quest points. Immune to player card effects. Players cannot travel to the Carrock except through quest card effects. While it's the active location, trolls get +1/+1. Yikes. Okay, well that's obviously a very theme-based quest item, so it's pretty hard to talk about. It seems pretty scary. Riverlands. While in the staging area, River Fang Flood gets +1 for each troll enemy in play. Not particularly excitingly scary, but nonetheless pretty cool. Bee Pastures. Response. After you travel to Bee Pastures, search the encounter deck and discard pile for Grimborn the Old and add him to the staging area. Then shuffle your encounter deck. Excellent. Well, this is obviously a place we want to find. It's like he obviously likes hanging out with the bees in a nice green field, and this is where we find that awesome ally. Interesting, he can be pulled out of the discard pile and out of the encounter deck. So he's a very good character. He's even disposable because you can pull him back in a way. Quite cool. While Oakwood Grove is the active location, resource tokens from any sphere may be spent as leadership resource token. Okay, this is a very, very weird location. It kind of helps us, but it doesn't, because, I mean, what's the chances of drawing this single card out of a gigantic encounter deck? You can't build a deck planning on using this effect. So, okay, so that's interesting. Could have some funky little uses, allow you to do some things. Treachery. A frightened beast. When revealed, each player raises his threat by a total of will of all cards on the staging area. Any player may choose to discard from play 1 creature ally he controls to cancel this effect. Okay, so this is an interesting card. It's basically, it's like a sack, you know, like a smallpox or something, I guess. It's not that scary. It's basically, it's a treachery that we can cancel if it's too scary, and if it's not too scary, we don't worry about it. So, all in all, I'm quite happy to lose my least interesting player character on the table. You know, I just kill my worst guy, and I can cancel this. And if I don't want to cancel it, I probably don't care about this effect, so that is not a particularly threatening card. Destroy all heroes with the card Sacked attached. Then shuffle Roasted slowly back into the encounter deck. Well, that's a pretty scary card. That is a very, very scary card. Remember, there's 4, I think, of these sacks, so that could be quite devastating. And it's got a pretty nasty shadow damage as well. Heals, regens the trolls. Okay, so this is another card. There's only one of it in the deck. It's basically a game changer. It's a random element that you're not going to run into every game, but at the same time, when you do run into it, it has the possibility to completely wreck you. I quite like that as a gameplay element. I don't think it's particularly unfair or uncool. I'm pretty sure it'll frustrate me when I hit it, but at the same time, that they've only placed one of these in the deck really makes it a saving grace. Okay, so that's the encounter deck. I'm not going to go through the quest cards themselves. Okay, so these are definitely my favourite cards from the player deck. Frodo's ability is insane. Like, I mean, that he is a powerful character, and he's only got 7 threat. I mean, he is a good character. I'm definitely going to be putting him into my deck, and he combos really well with Bilbo, I think. And I just think that he's a very, very good card, and he'll be making it into my quests. It's interesting that they chose to have such a low quest willpower, and instead put this amazing ability on him. Obviously, I mean, he is the king of questing if you look at Lord of the Rings, isn't he? So I just think this card is a card that doesn't thrill me thematically or doesn't really interest me as like a card in inverted commas, but its abilities are way too powerful to have a comment on, not to comment on. It's just amazing. Okay, now here's another interesting card. Born Aloft. Now, tactics, I'm not very happy with the tactics deck, but Born Aloft does seem like a very powerful ability. It allows people to get out of trouble, triggers onboard effects, triggers casting effects. I think there's quite a lot of stuff that can be done to this card. This is a card that looks to me like a combo enabler. This is a card that allows you to do other interesting things, while the card itself isn't actually that interesting. It's like a combo starter or something to prolong a combo. I think this is the kind of card that is going to be abused, and people are going to come up with interesting effects and interesting things with these decks, and this is going to be an integral card to doing that. And lastly, this is probably my favorite card at a glance for the player deck. Being able to cancel the shadow effects is huge, because as I said, the shadow effects surprise you, and this removes that surprise, which means that all you have to worry about is your planning. So this is a fantastic card. Really cool card. And finally, we have a neutral card. I mean, this is what's so good about this pack. We've got a great card in almost every single one. And this neutral obviously combos perfectly with that, which means that this card, because this will allow this to be cast upon any hero. So we cast this on, say, a leadership character, and now we can put this on it. So that's a very, very good card as well. These combo together nicely. So that's the player deck cards that I'm most interested in. And as for the encounter deck, the trolls are nice, but this is the card that I love the most out of the encounter deck. I just think thematically this is awesome. We're trekking around, we're exploring, we're going along the banks, we're going along the mountains, all this kind of stuff, and we run into this big, massive open field where there's this kind of lumbering giant hanging out with nice flowers and bees, and he's a friendly giant. I think that's cool. I think that's very, very, very flavoursome and enjoyable to me as a concept in the game. And so Bee Pastures is my favourite encounter deck card for this game. Okay, so that is Lord of the Rings, Conflict at Carrock. Okay, so, hope you liked it. See ya.